All right, this is FSA Writing Review number 1, because there is a part 2 for 7th and 8th grade. We are going to talk about overview and unpacking the question. So we do have a mix of both 7th and 8th graders in here today, so I'll be answering questions for both of those. So let's look at the important thing. Let's look at dates. So the FSA Writing test dates, the updated calendar is on lvip.leeschools.net. Okay, you should have also gotten this in your homerooms. So this information was shared with your homeroom, and it's also information that is updated on our webpage and also the homepage. There's a link for the calendar for the testing calendar. So 7th grade, April 4th, which is a Wednesday, you want to arrive at 12:30. The test starts at 1. The test is 2 hours, so plan on being there until around 3. And you will text your parents when you're done, but you'll be there until at least 3 o'clock. 7th grade is paper-based. So my 7th graders, you will be writing with pen and paper for the testing. Okay, this is the writing one. 8th graders, your test date is April 9th, which is a Monday. You want to arrive also at 12:30. The test starts at 1. 8th grade is computer-based. So 8th graders, you will be typing yours on the computer and reading the text and everything on the computer. Okay. All FSA assessments are administered at the Lee County Public Education Center. That's the building on Colonial behind the McDonald's where we do all of our first days and all of our testing. And you're going to enter and exit via the north entrance. That's the same entrance we normally use. Okay. So one that's in the back of the building. Questions on dates. Okay. So make sure you have, I have had some people ask me about testing dates. Make sure that you're looking at, when you look at your pace chart, make sure it's the live link for the pace chart. It's not one that you downloaded in the beginning. I update it all the time. I put live lessons on it. I put updated dates. So make sure that you're clicking on the pace chart from my homepage, okay? So take a look at the calendar on lvip.leeschools.net, the middle school testing calendar, so you can see your other test dates too, okay? So 7th graders, what type of test is yours? 7th graders is paper, good. And 8th grade is computer. Okay, so my 7th graders have paper, my 8th graders have computer. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Fino, I need you to stay on focused. Okay, so we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to turn off the chat because I want you guys to really focus on this. If you have questions, of course, I'll be more than happy to answer those after I go over this. So let's talk about the ELA writing. ELA writing test consists of one text-based constructed response item. What that means is that you read a variety of text and respond to a prompt. Okay? Your prompt will either be informative, or you explain, or argumentative. Okay? I don't know which one you'll get, and you may get different ones depending on the day and the test and everything. So you'll either have informative or argumentation, and that's what your prompt will be. Okay, we don't know what it'll be before you get started. Okay, so there's practice tests. So I'm going to put the link for the practice test in here because I want you guys to be able to go and take the practice test. Now, if you want me to grade your practice test, you can send it to me in an email and I'll grade it. But I want you guys to be really comfortable with how the test is set up. So we're going to go over that in this lesson and in the next lesson. I just want you to be comfortable with it. It's not anything that should be overly difficult for you. It's stuff that we've gone over. It's the type of writing that we do all the time. I just want you guys to be comfortable with it. So I put the link in there for the practice test. So let's talk a little bit more about it. So what you'll get is a planning sheet. Now, 7th and 8th graders, 8th grade, you'll get a planning sheet too, even though you're computer-based. Okay? The planning sheet will look like the sample here. It says, before you begin, your test administrator will give you a planning sheet that you may use to take notes and plan your writing. You'll notice it says May. You don't have to do a planning sheet. I would highly, highly encourage and recommend that you do because it will make you more organized, but you're not forced to. Okay? Again, I would highly recommend that you do a planning sheet, but you're not forced. So your test administrator will collect your planning sheet at the end of the test session. While testing, make sure that your planning sheet is not easily visible to other students, okay? You'll be spread out when you take the test. You'll be with other students and you'll be spread out, but just make sure that nobody else can see your answers, okay? So get your planning sheet, you'll put your name on it, and then you'll get test and answer books. So this is for my 7th graders. My 8th graders, this will be on the computer for you. For my 7th graders, you'll receive an FSA ELA writing test and answer book that contains reading passages, a writing prompt, and 3 lined pages where you will write your response. Make sure you write inside the box that contains the lines. So 7th graders, you want to make sure that you write inside the box. Okay, 8th graders, yours will be on the test, on the computer, and that website that I put on, you can take the practice computer test, okay? So you'll just go in and select 8th grade computer-based test to take that. 7th graders, there are written practices for you too. So in taking the test, these are the directions that you'll get. Read each passage carefully and respond completely to the prompt. Your writing should show that you can organize and express your thoughts clearly. In the next review session, we'll go over the rubric, but one of the things that you're graded on is organization. So you want to make sure that you can organize and express your thoughts clearly. You're required to write your response in English. Manage your time carefully so that you have time to read the passages. Yes, there's more than one passage. Plan your response. Write your response. Proofread, revise, and edit your response. Okay, so you need to do all of that in the time allotted. Now let's look at a sample. So this would be a sample test prompt. It's no secret that sometimes great discoveries come as a result of really big mistakes. But are they always worth the problems they cause? Sometimes the mistakes lead to greatness, and sometimes they lead to disaster. Are mistakes key to making discoveries? Write an essay in which you take a position on whether or not mistakes are a key part of discovery. Use the information presented in the passages to support your points. Make sure to include information from all the passages in your essay. Okay, I want to see if good. I broke that down a little bit, so we'll talk about that in detail on the next slide. But this is what the directions will say. Manage your time carefully so that you can read the passages, plan your essay, write your essay, and revise and edit your essay. Be sure to include a claim, address counterclaims, use evidence from multiple sources, and avoid overly relying on one source. Your response should be in the form of a multi-paragraph essay. Hopefully, this looks really familiar to you guys because this is what we just finished doing in Module 6. Okay? So what we went over and reviewed in Module 6, this is what they're asking you to do, except they're providing the text for you. Okay? So very, very similar to what we've done in class in Module 6 in both my 7th and 8th grade class. Okay, I've got a couple questions. So questions. Joey, I saw you raise your hand. What questions do you have? I think I put the chat back on. Yep. If you have questions, the link for 7th grade is the same link. So use that FSA assessment. Sophia, it doesn't have to be 5 paragraphs. It says your response should be in the form of a multi-paragraph essay. Your key thing is that you're answering the question in the best way that you can completely. Okay, so it says multi-paragraph essay. All right, so you have to make your best decision on that. It does say multi-paragraph, so not one paragraph, okay? Multi. All right, so let's unpack this a little bit more. Ricky, FSA is, you came in a few minutes late. For 8th grade, April 9th at 12:30. And please make sure that you're looking at the updated calendar on lvip.leeschools.net. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about a prompt. So this is a 7th grade prompt, but it's still a good example for my 8th graders. Okay, so let's look at the prompt. It's the one that I just read, so I'm not going to read it to you again, but you can see that in yellow, that's kind of your background information. They want you to think about mistakes. Do they lead to greatness, or do they lead to disaster, new discoveries? Okay, and then in the middle, in the red, that's your task. That's what you're supposed to do for this assignment. So write an essay in which you take a position on whether or not mistakes are a key part of discovery. So guys, tell me, what type of an essay is this? Put it in the chat box. What type of an essay is this? It is multi-paragraph. It's expository, argumentative, persuasive, argumentative. Good. Because you're taking a position. So you have a claim. You're taking a position. And then here in the turquoise, it says, use the information presented in the passages to support your points. Make sure to include information from all the passages in your essay. You could have 2 passages. You could have 3 passages. You could have nonfiction. You could have fiction. You could have poetry. There will be all different types of passages and text that you'll read from. But the key element in this one is that you have to make sure you include information from all the passages in your essay. Exactly, Ricky. Direct and indirect quote. We will go into that more when we get into part 2 in a couple of weeks after spring break about how to do the indirect and direct quotes. But you guys are pretty familiar with that. It's the same thing that we've gone over in your essays. You're going to write according to the title of the article, author, and then your quote. Okay? Today we're just I'm getting you familiar with what the prompts will look like. And then next time we meet for an FSA review for writing, we'll talk more about actually going in and using the evidence. So the time directions. Again, this is a time test. So you have to plan your time carefully. Get about 2 hours, read your passages, plan your essay, write your essay, and revise and edit. Okay, I would read the prompt first before I read the text, so I know what I'm looking for. Now, 7th graders, you can underline since it's paper. 8th graders, it's on the computer, so you can highlight. Okay, so 8th graders, you'll be able to highlight key things as you read. I would read the passages at least twice. Okay, take your time to plan, write your essay, and you want to also make sure you leave time to revise and edit. Because one of the things that you're graded on is conventions, and that's your spelling and grammar. Okay, be sure to, this is more, include a claim. Are you guys tired of hearing me talk about claim yet? You know what a claim is, so make sure that you include a claim. Address counterclaims. Yay, counterclaims. This is all things that you're familiar with. Use evidence from multiple sources. The good news for you guys is the sources are provided. This is actually easier than what I ask you to do because your sources are provided. Avoid overly relying on one source. Okay, so if you have to include evidence from multiple sources and avoid overly relying on one source, how would you do that? What would be your suggestions, you guys? How can you make sure you don't rely on just one source? Oh, good. Take both sources, combine the information. You still have to sort. You still have to use the sources properly. Maybe in each paragraph, you could make sure that you use a different source. So if you're able to, in each paragraph, use a different source. Limit yourself. Highlight, underline, so you know what you've used. Again, you guys, I'm not going over this to stress you out. I think you're very well prepared with our curriculum. I want you to understand what to expect when you walk in to take the FSA Writes. So that's why we're doing this review, and we'll do the other review in a couple of weeks, just so you're comfortable. Right? Daisy, do you have a question? Daisy, honestly, I don't know. It's kind of your responsibility, so make sure you look at the testing calendar and you have it written down. Okay? Okay, so an 8th grade prompt. Let's look at an 8th grade prompt. Sophia, you can put a question in the chat if you want. So 8th grade prompt, your town's public library is hosting an exhibit on pen names throughout history. You have been asked to write an informational article for the exhibit's display explaining why some authors choose to use pen names. Your essay should be based on the ideas and concepts found in the pen names in literature passage set. Okay, so for this 8th grade example prompt, you'll be given pen names in literature, a passage. So you'll be given a couple of different passages about pen names in literature. And you're asked to write an informational article about the exhibit's display explaining why some authors choose to use pen names. Remember, this is argumentative, so it's informational. You want to explain why some authors use pen names. Okay. Sophia, you can't use highlighters. You can bring a pencil. I said highlighters because the 8th graders, they can highlight on the computer. Okay, good question though. No, pencils. So you can see that 7th grade might have an argumentative prompt. 8th grade might have an informational. You won't know until you go in. I don't know. So it just kind of depends. Okay, questions, 8th graders, questions on that prompt. Pretty standard, guys. Nothing that's complicated, nothing that I don't think you should handle. I think that you'll do really well, but I want you to be prepared. So I'd like you to go do the practice test. If you want me to send it to me, I'd be more than happy to look at it. Jamie, we're going to go over that in part 2 of this review that we'll do right after spring break. Okay, and I'll give you an example of what to write, and we'll talk about how we should quote. Okay. Today was just, I wanted you to start thinking about it and really look at the questions. Okay. So I will give you more examples. All right. So here is the Google form for today to give you guys your credit for being here. If you can fill out the Google form, it's just like 2 questions. And that way I know who's here and I do track who's here. And I really appreciate you guys coming. I will have the recording and the PDFs available so you can look through them tomorrow. And the practice test link, let me put that up there again so you can have the practice test link in the chat. Okay, so the Google form is the first one. The practice test link is the second one. And again, this should be for my full-time Lee virtual students. So hopefully those of you who are here, this is for my full-time Lee virtual students. Okay, if you take the classes through somewhere else and you're just with us part-time, you'll take it at that school. But this is for my full-time Lee virtual students.